All right, so we are live. It's just funny. I just recorded this whole video for the recap. It's like 10:30 California time Friday night, and I found out that it didn't even go through and it was muted the whole time. So talk about being rusty. Um, Not fun, but I do want to record this again and give this another shot. So let me just go ahead and share my screen, just talk about some of the things that I did today, and so that you guys can see um what I've been. So this is my kind of watch screen, and so I have six stocks that I'm interested in. HYMC, Tesla, we have AppLovin and Micron, and also Silver, SLV, and AMCI. And so then on this screen here, just focused on one stock at a time. I have a daily chart I like to look at. You can ignore the technical indicators. I know it's sort of a lot to look at. I have a minute chart, so each candle represents 1 minute the stock's trading during the time frame. If you see the shaded part, that's usually the after hours or before pre-market. Same thing, but combined in 5 minute candles. This tells me the overall trend of the stock and where I can look at possible support resistance levels. And then the 15-minute level, and then this is just a volume chart of where the stock has traded. So obviously anything in here in the middle where the most of volume is, that red line, anything above that, longs are clearly in charge. Anything below that, right, there's less volume, so it's a sell-off, and so people are buying, and tells you kind of the what people are doing. And then I have a daily chart here, which should simplify a lot of stuff. So let's start off with Tesla. I mentioned here also a lot that there is this 489 strong resistance level. And so I'm just going to summarize it on the 15-minute level. So if we go to 489, which is right here, you can see for a while, right? It's on the 18th, it was resistance. On the 19th, there was resistance. On the 20th, we broke out of it, we failed. Broke out of it, we failed. On the next day was resistance. Pre-market, we broke out of it, we failed, and then today we didn't even really manage to really get that far. And so clearly that 489 level is resistance. I was actually here at 483. I was looking at waiting for this 500 to be potentially tested, considering how many times we had already tested it. And you can see we have essentially five straight red candles. I was expecting us to break this, right? Because what happened here was the 498 level failed, right? So people thought it was going to break and didn't, and it failed, and it just locked in and trapped now a lot of people. I mean, it started selling off after hours. We're down at 473. So I was actually long here. Let me show you the chart here, the 1 minute chart here. So I was actually long here. I got in, it was should have been 483 on the dot. So it would have been somewhere here. Let's see. Yeah, like right in here. And so you can see there's this sort of push, but this thing just faded. I mean, it just completely faded. There was no buying from here all the way, essentially it took about an hour. I mean, this is just 1 hour of selling, right? So they pump it up and then they just sell it off. And the buyers finally came in. You can see some green candles. If you look at the 5 minute chart, right, you can see this, right? This candle here clearly, right? It's a bullish candle. And the buyer stepped in, they hit the VWAP, which is the volume weighted average price. And then that ended up being a resistance, and the stocks continue to sell off even after hours. So not pretty for Tesla. Like I said, just the way this thing was setting up, I thought, was pretty confident that it wants to break 500. Now that it's not, it's going to sell off and then it'll run back eventually. But it was a tough day for Tesla. AppLovin, I'm not trading shares. This stock is actually hard to trade in the sense that you have a $1 spread between the bid and the ask. And so it's hard to get a good fill when the spread is so big. And the volume today was under a million too. So it's a lot of these stocks don't have a lot of volume, which makes them very, like, the liquidity is hard. So if you're in the stock, it's hard to get out. But I actually am trading options. Now, why am I trading options? If you look here on the daily, the stock has ran essentially $200 in about a month. And so here it filled in this gap from a previous close on November 21st. and then ran right back up to retest all the highs at 740. And this stock reminds me a lot of SMCI. If you guys remember, SMCI was a stock this like it reminded me of, it ran all the way up to 1,200 bucks. And so it was essentially here a $25 stock, and then it ran straight up into $1,200. Okay, now it did a 10 reverse split, which is why it says it's 100, 120 bucks up here, but it was 1,200, and then it completely sold off. Right, so a lot of these stocks, right, they consolidate, they run up, and then the back ends, right. There's a front end of the move, and then there's the backside. And the backside looks a lot better, right. The front side, if you're long and you just ran with it, you became rich really quick. And so this was essentially a $250, the 29 was like a 200, like a $300 stock that ran up to 1,200 bucks in a matter of, right. So this was uh January, and this was March. So in 2 months, right. So it's not really something that could be sustainable. You can't keep a stock that high. And so AppLovin reminds me a lot of that. And so what I'm doing here, there's a lot of these doji candles, right? So buyers and sellers, no one's really in control. And today we finally had this sell off, but I'm really looking for this move here at 655 and potentially this retest, right? So I'm not expecting this to fill in this gap on the daily. I'm expecting a retest of this, and it just happens to line up really well on Monday with the 50-day here at 632, 633. And so I'm really looking for a good flush. People will get trapped trying to buy at this, what we call the 20-day EMA. This line represents the 50-day, and this line represents in the orange the 200-day. And so what I really expect to see is a secondary bounce off of this level to validate it. And so what I'm doing is I bought a few puts right down here at the 650 level, bottom a month out or so. And so, if it doesn't work, I have time to work, but the time will is one of the factors that you have to look at when you're doing option trading. And so just to be clear, I'm not trading shares. Again, like I said, it's just a hard stock to trade. The liquidity isn't really there as well.